Hey everybody, welcome back to our Liberty House. My name is Lucas, and today we're going to share a very exciting video we've been thinking a lot about on some tips. 4 tips for a new gardener, a brand new gardener, or a beginner gardener who's looking to maybe get a little bit bigger and expand. And so what we're going to go over is location of your garden, what containers you're going to use in the soil, timing. The right timing is very important to gardening, and also just to start small and build your confidence up. So let's get going and move on deeper into those topics. All right, the first thing I want to go over is the location of your garden. This is super important. Basic science, remember, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So for your summer vegetables, your tomatoes, your peppers, all those things, they really are full sun plants, and they need at least 6 hours of sunlight a day, at a minimum 6 hours of sunlight. So when you're planting your garden, look for where you're going to get the most afternoon sun and morning sun, and look for any obstacles. So like we have a big palm tree in the way that sometimes shades things out. So if you had like a whole wall of trees or houses, big tall houses that are going to block and shade out your garden, you need to find a better spot. So really, like, we could have put a garden on this whole lawn area, and we would get morning through afternoon sun, all the sun we could ever want by putting it here. But our garden is set up to where we get morning sun, afternoon sun, and then a little afternoon shade because our house really blocks the like super scalding heat. Look at the sun through different times of the year. If you're in the northern hemisphere like we are here in Sacramento, remember that the sun is a little bit offset to the south, where if you were in the southern hemisphere, it'd be a little bit offset to the north. So obstacles on the southern end of your yard are going to create more shade for your garden. So location is super important. Watch the sun throughout the day and kind of figure out where the best area that you're going to get sun, because it would really suck to build a garden and do all the prep work and then not have enough sunlight there to get full, great, delicious tomatoes and peppers and other things that really need, I said 6 to 8, hours of sunlight a day. Cool. The second topic is what you're growing in, containers, and also the soil medium that you're going to be growing in. And so are you going to be growing in raised beds like the ones we have built here? Are you going to buy prefab raised beds? Are you able to grow in the ground? If you have really good soil in your area, you can definitely grow in the ground. Here in Sacramento, it's really just not worth it. It's so much clay, you're just never going to get through it. If you do grow in the ground though, still go buy some good compost, some good 70-30, some sort of top mix for it as a growing medium. But for us, the thing that makes the most sense is growing in a raised bed, and I think you should too, because you could really control what you put in it. You can get the best soil possible to put in it to really give your plants the the nutrients and the right growing medium to grow good healthy roots and healthy fruits. So definitely buy the most expensive soil you can buy. Don't put junk soil in there. This is what your plants get all their life from. So buy the best soil you can buy. And if you have a truck, if you have a friend with a truck, or if you could rent a truck, a little cost-saving tip is go to a landscape supply area and get bulk soil from them. It costs about, like for us, it costs about $60 for a yard of compost, which would cost you, probably 3 times that if you just bought it all in bags, like from a Home Depot or another box store. So if you could go buy bulk soil, it'll save you a bunch of money. Like we put 7 yards of soil in our garden, and it was a lot cheaper just to buy it in bulk. And we actually had it delivered here, and a lot of places will deliver for you if you get over an X amount. Like it's usually about 4 yards for a free soil delivery. So that's just a little cost saving tip. And you're using less plastic. We like to try to use less plastic around here. And the last thing on the topic is definitely, fertilize your soil. If you bought a really good quality, compost, you probably don't need to fertilize the first year, but definitely something to think about. They have like Sure Start and different well-balanced fertilizers. We like this Down to Earth 772 for a good early season fertilizer. It's got a lot of nitrogen and potassium in it to help with root and foliage growth. So definitely don't forget to fertilize in the years to come. The first year, like I said, if you bought really good soil, you probably don't need to. And if you're watching this and you have a couple years in your garden and you're not quite sure how your soil is doing, check out our video on how to test your soil. We went over a little soil test kit that's cheap and really easy for inexperienced people to figure out, what that NPK is looking like in your soil. Number 3 to go over is timing. Timing is everything with gardening, and we've all learned the hard way of trying to sneak something in too early, and then it either stunts or it dies and just doesn't grow, and you're out of a plant that you bought. So I definitely would say timing is really important. And one thing you can do is just do a internet search for a growing calendar for your zone. And the more local you can get it, the better. So this one is for University of California, from the Sacramento County Extension Office. It's a growing calendar. It shows when to start your transplants, from seed if you're going to do that, when to transplant things into the ground, and when to start things from seed outside. So it's a great resource to use. Okay, just because something is at the nursery doesn't mean it's the right time to plant it. They're a business. They're going to put things out as soon as their suppliers give it to them, try to make more money, extend their, sales season. So really, use a planning calendar to find out when the right time to plant stuff in the ground is. So that's huge for new gardeners, because we've all been there. Get really excited in March about seeing a tomato at the nursery, and then it dies, because you get a late frost or it's just too cold. Tomatoes like 70-degree weather. So just keep that in mind. And the last thing, if you're in our area, gardening is a community. Find us on, Instagram, find, people on Facebook, but, reach out to where, find something local. Like there's always good, like Facebook groups that are like Sacramento gardening, and there's people on there with a ton of experience. You can post questions, ask questions, and really see what works for people in your, microclimate, So that's something, timing and reaching out and finding a community to help you out. Okay, the fourth and final thing I want to talk about, which I think is equally as important to the other 3, is starting small. If you're a brand new gardener, or you've only really grown a couple things in pots on your your back door patio, or we started our first garden in Beth's apartment, like on her little apartment patio with one cherry tomato and I think like a bell pepper or something. So start small. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 big beds. We've got smaller beds all over the place, but we've been doing this for 12 years now, and you don't want to get overwhelmed. So you really have to resist the urge to, your first garden to grow everything, 16 varieties of tomatoes, like 40 pepper plants, and, just going wild. And then you get overwhelmed because you can't take care of it all. And then that kills your confidence for the next year. So when you're planning your garden, definitely plan to get bigger. But I would say, your first couple years, start small, build that confidence, do a couple things very, very well, and then you can start adding on year to year to year. So I think that's very important. Don't overwhelm yourself. And also with not overwhelming yourself, I wouldn't, if I was a new gardener, I wouldn't start seeds like in a greenhouse. Just go buy good transplants from a reputable nursery, and don't worry about seed starting until you're more experienced, because it's a ton of work. And like I said, you're just going to get overwhelmed. And it's like another, it's not cheap to have a seed starting setup. It's not cheap to buy transplants, but really don't overwhelm yourself. Worry about, like I said, worry about location. Worry about the soil, like get the best possible soil you can, and fertilizer, and then, worry about timing before you really get into seed starting. All right, that's all I have for you guys. 4 things for the new and beginner gardener to, think about: location, 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 buying great soil, good containers, timing. Timing is everything, like they say. And also just don't get overwhelmed. Start small, build your confidence. Find us on social media. Drop a comment below here. Our Instagram is at Our Liberty House. You can always find us and reach out to us. Give us a DM if you have more questions. We love helping new and beginner gardeners get started. Hit that like and subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next week.